You think I'm stupid, Duke? Even if I gave you money, you'd still tell on Mother, and no one must know about her or what she's done!
You're listening to the Skeleton Crew, radioactive scariness.
We have on the show with us a very smart gentleman named Rob G. He's the man behind the Psycho Legacy, which is a documentary of Psycho and its 3 sequels. And proof that he's smart is that he knew to leave the Psycho remake out of this documentary. Welcome, Rob.
Oh, hi. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
We got the Psycho remake, 1998, starring Vince Vaughn and Anne Heche. Now, you see, this movie was kind of pointless because it was just basically shot almost shot for shot. And when you try to imitate something, you're gonna be directly compared to it. That's like one thing I ran into when I was expressing my dislike for the Halloween remake. It's that people were like, you have to separate it from the original, in order to like it. And my answer to them was, no, Rob Zombie had to separate it from the original, and I would have liked it.
Yeah.
Rob Zombie fell short because he was in that whole tug-of-war battle with the Weinsteins, whether or not Halloween was going to be remade under his own vision or paying homage to the original, and the movie never really went one way or the other, so for that reason it fell flat. And the Psycho remake fell flat because the obvious reasons it was just creating a poor imitation. I think the only way to successfully remake a movie is to create a new vision while lightly referencing the original source material. You know what I mean? And that's not even a guaranteed success. You still have to be a good movie.
Yeah.
What are your overall thoughts on this, first of all, Mr. G?
Well, I watched it when it came out. I remember around 98 when it was getting ready to come out, I was really, excited for it because there hadn't really been a Psycho film in a long time, and Perkins was at that point long gone. And, I liked everything that Gus Van Sant had done up until then. I thought Vince Vaughn was an interesting choice, but I didn't exactly see it. So I was like, all right, well, whatever. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I understand the need to remake stuff, but it's kind of like the point you were trying to make before about Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie, I think, works for the first half because it's completely his own thing.
Right.
I think where that one struggles is the second half because the second half tries to be the John Carpenter movie. And, love it or hate it, at least Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, at least it's a Rob Zombie movie through and through and not trying to remake, an element of one of the, movies. The Psycho, it's interesting in theory. I was excited about it at the time, and the theory completely failed. There's, because it's like all the stuff I heard leading up to the release was intriguing. One aspect was I heard that it was going to be shot for shot. Then I heard a rumor that it was going to be shot for shot up until the shower scene, and then from the shower scene on, it was going to go in a radical new direction. Mm-hmm. And then I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, oh, if they do that, that's kind of cool, because then you'll feel like you're watching the same movie, but then they'll go into new territory. And then the other argument was, well, people do plays all the time using the same scripts and new actors. So what's the difference between, trying to put on a stage show and remaking a movie like this? Like, can it be done? So it all sounded good on paper, but I think the biggest mistake was because it's like they say it's shot for shot and they're sticking completely to the original, even to the point where if an actor did something that didn't fit the timing of the original movie, they'd reshoot it. Like, they had the DVD handy so that they could match the exact pacing and timing of the original, which to me seems kind of like preposterous. It's like, well, why don't you use that way? An actor is not concentrating on giving it a performance. They're trying to just be exactly the right timing of stuff, and it kind of distracts the actors.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they went into this meticulous detail to recreate everything, yet they made some of the craziest changes, like the new house, which I don't know why. Like, it's like, hey, let's give them a new house that looks nothing like the original. Norman Bates should masturbate before he kills people and see clips from Nine Inch Nails videos or something. None of that ever made any sense to me. It's like if you're going to make a change, go the full 9 and explain it. And if you're going to stay to the original, then stay to the original and don't add these weird asinine things to it.
Right.
So it's just weird. I don't know exactly what they were trying to do with that. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't work and it just doesn't work. It's like if they completely updated it and redid it, I'd be kind of okay with all right, well, this is a different take.
Right.
But the other thing is, a script from 1960 doesn't play the same way in 1998. It's like some of that stuff is kind of corny now in retrospect.
Yeah.
It's of its time, but in 98, it's a little corny.
Exactly what you said. Why make certain changes if you're not going to even update the script to how people talk? For example, one scene I thought was really weird that they added in was Lila Loomis saying, "Let me go get my Walkman."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why make a Walkman reference if the rest of the time they're going to say words that people haven't said in 40 years?
Yeah. All the decisions they made on it just seem very odd. I don't get them.
They made the oddest decisions. Like you said, man, they changed certain aspects of it. Like I noticed, the way how much the car was and stuff like that, and they kept a lot of the same. But if they're trying to play it as 98, which they do in the beginning, they say it's 1998, and you're using the same dialogue, that they did back then, it just doesn't gel. It just doesn't go well.
I think the most successful remakes are the ones where, like I said, they touch lightly on the source material. For example, I know a lot of people hate this, and this is probably a bad example, but House of Wax, I really liked it, but that's just my personal opinion. But the thing that's even better about it is that they didn't just recreate the Vincent Price, which is also a remake, but it's cool that they just took something loose, House of Wax, okay, and that's it. That's what you got to do with stuff like this. You could have done so much with Norman Bates. Let's start off with the positives. I do believe the camera was in focus. Okay, we're done. Now let's get to the bashing. No, no. Okay, let's go with a couple positives. The one thing that they did a little bit better than the original was when Norman hit Sam in the face with a golf club. That was probably the only scene that was like, wow, that was pretty badass. And
the sound effect was better.
Yeah, it was better, and it was better than that weird. It was better than that weird thing Norman hit. I forgot what he even hit him, like a tin can or something. I don't even,
Yeah.
I don't even know what he hit him with. But Mike, what are your biggest problems with this movie? Why didn't this work? Besides what we already mentioned.
I did not like the masturbation before he killed Marion Crane, and I really didn't like. And I talked to you about this, earlier today, Alex, when I said before he goes down after he killed Marion to clean it up, and he's walking out of the house and he's like, blood, 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 blood. Like it's like a dance number or something, and I don't get that. I hate that.
Yeah,
that really bugged me too, Mike. Yeah, that drove me crazy, actually.
The acting was terrible. I felt like I was watching a bad school play of this movie. The acting started off. Rob, what did you think of the act? I know that you give a pass to William Macy.
William Macy.
William H. Macy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
yeah, he's the only actor that doesn't seem like he's distracted by the whole timing of, trying to get the timing right of how the original actors performed it. So, and he's just a really good actor. You could give him something like, all right, I need you to, execute this paragraph of dialogue in 2 minutes, that's it. And he's the type of actor to pull it off. So he was really good. But yeah, even Vince Vaughn, I would have been curious if he was able to kind of left his own devices to do his own version of Norman Bates. But it seems like they were all really, kind of like put in a box to just copy exactly what he'd done before.
right.
I honestly, I'm trying to think of positives. I guess getting Danny Elfman to redo the score in 5.1.
That was
is
good.
a positive.
Yeah, that was good.
Is that? When I went to see it in theaters, I was just so disappointed because the thing is, when you watch the original movie, you don't know the twist. Maybe now you're a little bit more savvy. You've seen a lot of movies that have copied Psycho, and it'll seem strangely familiar when you're watching the original movie. But for the most part, when Norman comes out as Mother, you're like, whoa, that's insane. I had no idea. But I remember the first moment that Vince Vaughn came on screen, everyone was kind of snickering at the thing, and it was like they knew, like, oh, this guy's obviously psycho, like he's insane. So this is obviously the person that's going to be the killer. And more importantly, the reveal in the original is like one of those great shocking moments with the score and everything, the screeching violence. But then I remember theaters, the second you saw Vince Vaughn with a blonde wig, which also didn't make sense, everyone started laughing. And I was just like, no, this is supposed to be the scary reveal, and everyone's laughing at Vince Vaughn in a blonde wig. It's not right. It doesn't feel right.
And I want to go back to Mike. Remember you talked about how you don't like that Norman was jerking off when Marion was getting undressed?
Right.
I think the funny part about it, and I always catch on to this stuff because I'm a nut, I think it was funny that he went at it for about 15 seconds and he seemed to finish.
Oh, yeah, dropping fucking loads.
Now,
that's a quick draw.
Yeah, I think he's competing with Judith Myers' boyfriend because at this point, I don't know who lasted longer.
Yeah, no, I wonder that myself, actually.
That doesn't adhere to the whole reason why Norman morphs over into the other personality is Mother is just, the mother personality of Norman Bates is extremely jealous. So the point is, as soon as he even remotely gets attracted to another woman, he turns into Mother. So he wouldn't even have a chance to masturbate. It's that, like in the original, he sees her kind of naked, and then he goes to the other room, and then he becomes Mother because Mother becomes insanely jealous of it. It's like he can't get sexually aroused and then become Mother. It's like that's what causes him to become Mother, is his sexuality. When he kind of gets into that mode and feels that aspect of himself, that's when he becomes Mother. So it doesn't make any sense.
That's a very good point.
Well, and I think too with that whole thing, I think they were trying to update it for shock value mainly, and that's the deal. Like, it's a hard question too. But Rob, what do you think? Do you think it's the times too that it didn't play as well as the original?
Again, it's one of those movies that's just really difficult to figure out the decision-making process on it. Like, why would they do that? Everything else stays so similar, but it's like, well, how can we shock people here? Masturbation is still pretty taboo in the 90s, so let's just show them doing that. I mean, I guess that's valid. I don't know why, as Mother, or I don't know why any psychopath, quote-unquote, would have visions of thunder and lightning and naked women from Nine Inch Nails videos and Rob Zombie, because it was
that really threw me off.
Thing. And I don't understand, like, what that even means. Like, and I mean, like, the trailer hints at that. They're like, this is the mind of Norman Bates. I'm like, really? Because crazy people don't see that kind of shit when they're crazy.
Yeah.
There is one personality that completely believes what they're doing, or they're the other that also completely believes what they're doing. So,
Dan, what were you talking about? You said when Arbogast was killed.
That's exactly what I was talking about. It looked like a Nine Inch Nails video when he was falling down the stairs. It really threw me off. There was a scene with a cow, and then, it was just odd in many different levels. To the point where it took me out of the movie, and I was like, what the hell is going on with this?
I thought that was Arbogast having flashbacks of, like, his life. Then I was like, well, I don't know. I'm not really sure what to make of that.
See, that's what I mean. What do you take from that? Right. Like, is it trying to say, in your last moments, things flash before your eyes that don't make sense? I mean, I've heard of that happening with people where they just see weird imagery, but they don't explain it. It doesn't fit in with the story. It's just odd. I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way.
That could be a valid theory that it's the character, but I mean, it happens during Marion Crane's death, too.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
I mean, that's the thing. You have to assume it's Norman's mind because, I don't know, why would Marion and Arbogast see, a cow and a naked woman? I don't understand why that would. It doesn't make sense that that's their life flashing back. It looks more like crazy, imagery that they're trying to insinuate Norman sees.
Right. No, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think they said, let's just put random shit here. Who cares? Anybody have a cow? Anybody have a mailbox we could throw in here?
Bueller?
Yeah, a garden hose. But, what I was saying before, I felt no impact during scenes that were really pivotal. Like, Mike, when Norman was delivering the classic lines like, it'll be cold and damp like a grave, the light will go out.
Fire go out,
Be cold, damp, like a grave.
You know, we're all in our private traps. We, you know, claw only at the air, only at each other, and
Right.
for all of it. We never budge an inch. Tell me that.
It felt like he was reading it from a paper. It really did. It just, there was no emotion behind it.
You know what I think? I think we're all in our private traps, clamped in them. We can never get out. Oh, we scratch and claw, but only at the ear, only at each other. And for all of it, you never budge an inch.
The only person that I felt exhibited any sort of emotion in the film was William H. Macy. Other than that, they were all just flat. They didn't, there was nothing.
Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace?
You mean an institution? A madhouse? People always call a madhouse someplace, don't they? Put her in someplace.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to sound uncaring.
What do you know about caring? Have you ever seen the inside of one of those places? The laughing and the tears, and the cruel eyes studying you. My mother there?
When Anthony Perkins delivered that line, you knew that shit hit the fan just now in this conversation. And you were like, oh shit. And Marion Crane knew it. We knew it. And you could see it. And you just hope that the next few words this guy says is going to be, you know, he's going to calm down and go back to normal. When Vince Vaughn said it.
Do you mean an institution? Madhouse. People always call a madhouse someplace, don't they? Put her in someplace.
I didn't mean to sound uncaring.
What do you know about caring? Have you ever seen the inside of one of those places? The laughing and the tears and the cruel eyes studying you? My mother in there?
Did you notice that he couldn't even rely on his delivery to get that point across? He had to make that weird face like he was mad. He's like, a madhouse? What do you know about caring? Have you ever seen the inside of one of those places? The cruel eyes staring at you? Like, it was so bad, and he knew it, that he had to start making faces to show us he's mad. Or to get that thing across when Anthony Perkins did it just in his tone of voice and his delivery. He owned the role. And all of those scenes could have fell flat, as you just saw in this remake, but they didn't fall flat when Anthony Perkins did it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a testament to him as an actor.
Yeah,
Right.
well, do you want to say that, or do you want to say that Vaughn could have done it had those lines been updated?
It really depends on the person that plays it and what kind of restraints they have on them.
Right.
And it seems like these guys had a lot of restraints. And the other thing is just, you know, Anthony Perkins is a completely different type of actor than Vince Vaughn, and there's so much stuff that Perkins did that really solidified him as that character.
I don't know what I think. I didn't hate Vince Vaughn's, you know, his whole role in that, because like Rob said, you know, it seemed like he had restraints, and you can only work with what you're given, and it didn't seem like they had a lot of leeway. It being shot for shot, practically line for line. What do you do with that? You know what I mean? So I don't hate this movie, but it's almost like I see no point in why they would make it. That's all.
Yeah, and watching it the whole time, because I don't know if Rob knows this, I never watched it. I was hoping to die saying I never watched this.
Yeah,
but
it's my fault.
Yeah, Mike put me up to the challenge, and I purposely, I wouldn't even watch the trailer. Like, they're like, dude, just check out the shower scene in the trailer, whatever. I wouldn't even do it. I said, I'm not watching this piece of shit. And I ended up doing it for the show, but, you know, whatever. You know what I was just really wondering? When they were doing those flashes and visions, why didn't they put the car salesman's hair in there? Wouldn't that have been the scariest thing they could have shown?
Yeah, would have been good.
Was that not scary or
Quite
what?
possibly.
Yeah.
You know, back to William H. Macy, I disagree with Rob and Mike, because to me, he just didn't have that face that made you go, oh shit, this guy's going to ruin my life. Like,
For real?
He didn't have the intimidation factor.
Dude, watch his parts again. Oh, I forget the guy that played him in the original. I forget his name.
I know, I was just trying to say that.
Martin Balsam.
Oh,
He's
that's
fine.
it. Yeah.
he's fine, but I mean, he doesn't. I mean, nobody in it really compares to anybody in the original in terms of acting ability, because again, Vince Vaughn's not on his game on this because he must have been limited by what Gus Van Sant wanted him to do. But if you go back to the original and watch the scene of Arbogast interrogating Norman and just Balsam and Perkins together, that's like one of the greatest examples of, that's just some of the finest acting ever captured on film. Like, those guys are so good together.
Absolutely, dude.
And a lot of it was them recommending, in particular Perkins recommending how he wanted them to kind of keep stumbling over each other's words, even though it might interfere with their coverage, the way they would normally shoot it. But yeah, no, Hitchcock was totally for it, and it turned out to be, it's a great moment.
Oh, I think perfect. I mean, when that scene, the interrogation, like, you felt like you were on the hot seat, didn't you? I mean, like, you lived through Norman during that entire scene, and you were like, oh shit, come on, don't mess up. Keep your game face. And when Vaughn did it, and this other guy, Macy, I just felt like it was two guys rehearsing lines. Now, this might be a case of, well, you're just comparing it to the original. You gotta, like, separate yourself, but you can't. I think that's the major problem here.
Right.
There's no way out of it. There's no way out of it. You have to.
Yeah, it's one of those rare movies that is just so influential and so original that it's really impossible to separate it. And that's kind of the way I approach, I mean, a lot of the newer remakes, I always have a tough time the first time I watch them because of that, but I've been able to separate them and enjoy them for what they are. But this is one of those rare occasions where it's really, really hard to differentiate the original and your memory of the original and the remake, because it's that indelible.
Yeah. Do you watch this movie for fun ever or no?
Which one, the remake?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I own it, and I saw it when it came out, and I watched it, I think, around the time that I was doing Psycho Legacy, and I thought I might be interviewing people from it, but every time I put it on, it honestly just feels like a waste of time to me. It's like, well, why am I going to watch this for the next 90 minutes when I'd rather watch the first one over again, or any of the sequels, which I think are superior to it. So there is better things to do with my time than to revisit the remake. I don't really enjoy all that much.
Exactly.
Do you feel that way about all remakes, though, Rob? Because Julianne Moore was just confirmed as Carrie's mother this week, and she did the remake of Psycho too. So, what do you think of that role? And do you think
I'm all right with that? I'm curious. I mean, I don't watch the movie until it actually happens, because I don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, that one in particular, Boys Don't Cry, the Kimberly Pierce who directed that. I mean, she's a pretty darn good director with drama, especially teens, and she proved that with Boys Don't Cry. So that's intriguing that she wants to tell the story of Carrie. And Julianne Moore is a great actress. I mean, she's not very good in Psycho, but again, I don't fault the actors for what happened with Psycho.
Right.
I kind of fault the director for confining them to trying to recreate, not only physically, but like the timing of the original performances. And then the little girl they got from, I forgot her name. It's like Chloe Moretz.
Chloe Moretz, yep.
I think she's great. I mean, she's been, everything I've seen her in, from 5 Days of Summer to Kick-Ass. She was just in Hugo. I thought that was great. She's a great little actress. So, I mean, I'm intrigued by the Carrie remake. Now, again, it's going to be a little weird, but they've already remade it, though. I mean, there's already 2 other Carrie movies. So, to me, it's not one of those, like, sacrilegious, the first Carrie was made before I think I was born. I think it was like 75 or 76. So it's well over 35 years old. We can remake that one.
Yeah, isn't the remake a made-for-TV movie or something like that?
Yeah.
My hobby is stuffing things. Taxidermy. Yeah. I guess I'd rather stuff birds. Well, because I hate the look of beasts when they're stuffed. Foxes and chimps. Some people even stuff dogs and cats. I couldn't do that. I think only birds look well stuffed because they're kind of passive to begin with.
I don't know. Just things like the Bates Motel sign I thought was terrible.
Oh well, yeah, that. Oh, you know what? The motel itself was terrible. The motel, the house. But we talked about the house. Well,
yeah,
Rob
we talked about that.
On the house, but the house was horrible. The motel was horrible.
Vince Vaughn's fake laughing was terrible. The actors who played Mr. Lowry and Cassidy, the two guys in the bank, absolutely terrible. How can you not even play a jerk correctly? I don't get it. You know, like while I was watching this, just like Rob, I just wanted to turn it off and watch Psycho 3, dude. I really, and you know, the movie was an insult to the music in my opinion, and they didn't even hit the cues right. Even when the Norman killed Marion in the shower, wasn't the music cue off there?
I mean, that's impossible to recreate. I can't imagine how. I know they were trying to go shot for shot, but
the music was off.
It's one of those magical. Yeah, I mean the music, but then again, it's like it's got to be a couple seconds off just because they threw in those weird random shots.
Right.
Those, you know, stuff. So right there, you're going to throw it off. It's not going to match the original cue.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that would have been impossible to try to recreate anyway.
Exactly.
No matter how many storyboards you put aside for it, because it's one of those magical moments in movies that just I can't. I don't even know if Hitchcock could have redone it.
Yeah. You know, as I sat there, it just dawned on me that I wonder who I would be today if that was my first introduction to Norman Bates. That's all I wonder, because it was that bad. But either way.
Rob, what's your favorite Psycho movie out of the franchise?
What's my favorite? Well, that's a tough question. I kind of love them all for my own reasons, which is why I even made a documentary about all of them.
Right.
The original is a classic, so that's obviously the best movie. But I don't know. I tend to go back and forth between 2 and 3.
Yes.
2 is great. 2 is a great sequel. I'm not crazy about the ending. It's a great ending and it's fun. But then I kind of have a weird soft spot for 3, which I know is not is one of the least liked by fans, or maybe the younger fans seem to like it a lot. But I don't know. 3 seems like fun through Norman's eyes, and that was always intriguing to me growing up. And it had a little bit of extra season. 3 is usually the one I'll go to watch. So wow. I'll say 3, just a tiny bit over 2.
Mike, you know how happy that makes me, right?
I know.
Like, if somebody never saw any of the sequels, I'd immediately show them part 2. They'd be like, oh, well, you have to see 2.
Right. Well, here's the thing I want to talk to you about now, Rob. Just like you said, part 3 is probably the least popular. All the experts, you know, 2 was a stunning, eloquent, great sequel. And part 3, that's just a piece of garbage that was just trying to cash in on the 80s slasher crap that was going on, and it was obviously competing with what was going on. But I ask you this. I'm going to pose this to you. Tell me how there's any difference with when it comes to the slasher sellout from part 2 to 3. And I'm going to pose it to you. The kills. Let's just go with it. Tooney gets his face slashed up, he's stabbed. The kid in the basement gets repeatedly stabbed and butchered. Lila Crane gets a knife rammed through her mouth. Dr. Raymond falls off his stairs, a knife goes through his chest. Mary gets shot up by the police. Norman gets repeatedly stabbed, a knife runs through his fingers. All gratuitous. But that's the classy sequel. Part 3 only has a nun falling down a stairwell, an attempted suicide, a girl in the phone booth, which was very reminiscent actually of the shower kill, a chick taking a piss on the toilet, getting her throat cut, and Duke getting hit with a guitar and strangled and drowned, and Maureen falls down the stairs into the Cupid's arrow, just like Arbogast. Now, what is so crazy about part 3 compared to part 2? I think I just listed off way more kills and a lot more extravagant, if you ask me. How is part 3 any more of a sellout than part 2?
I never looked at 3 as a cash-in to the slasher. I mean, that was just kind of maybe that was the studio's intentions with it, because they didn't really have much faith or confidence in Psycho 2 until Perkins got on board, and then it became a huge hit for them. So I'm sure Universal Studios is probably like, oh, well, we made a lot of money with Psycho 2, and now there's these Friday the 13th movies, and there's all these other movies making money, so we need to make a Psycho 3. but I don't think filmmakers, I mean, you know, I'm sure Perkins didn't think of it that way. He was looking at it as an opportunity to direct and get into directing.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, he only did 2 movies as a director, which is a shame because he had, you know, between that and his other one, which is Lucky Smith, he had a lot of, I mean, he had an interesting promise. I didn't realize it when I was watching Psycho 3, but reading up more on Perkins, he had a very European sensibility. He really liked a lot of films, you know, kind of from Europe. And you know, it's got, I mean, I see a lot of Argento in Psycho 3. You know, a lot of the weird colors and the neon stuff, and you know, a lot of your sensibility. Because I later went on to appreciate a lot of the Italian horror movies and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's interesting. I don't think. Maybe the studio wanted it to be a knockoff or a cash-in, but
artistically,
I think Perkins was doing the complete opposite and making the most uncommercial movie
right.
That Universal Studios was going to put out that year.
Dude, that movie's fascinating, man. And I think what really makes it perfect is you're literally seeing it through the eyes of Norman Bates, literally, because there was a lot of, you know, everybody knows that Anthony Perkins was a little off in his normal life, and that's what made him so perfect for the role. So you're actually, in a weird way, the person that made that character come to life, you're seeing it through that guy's eyes.
Yeah.
That just like solidifies everything about Norman Bates. And what I like about that movie is that Psycho 3 it felt like, to me, another day at the Bates Motel. Like, Part 1 was the introduction. We're all getting to see what's going on here. Part 2 was all about these 2 chicks trying to make them go crazy again. And Part 3 just seemed like, you know, let's all go camping in Crystal Lake. Maybe Jason will be around. Let's go to the Bates Motel. Maybe Norman, you know. But that would be a day going to the Bates Motel. And that's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
I presented the same question to Jason Allentoff, webmaster of thepsychomovies.com, on June 16th, 2011. And here was his response.
The second movie gets more respect when it comes to that, because even though there was gore in it, one can argue that it was done differently than 3. I'll give you a great example. I had this discussion with Rob G and a few other people. Psycho 3 is, and I don't know if you agree, has a very sleazy undercurrent. The whole movie feels sleazy. It doesn't feel that way when you watch 2.
No.
2 feels more like the original film in terms of suspense building, and that's what Richard Franklin was going for. Tony Perkins had just worked on Crimes of Passion in 1984 with Kathleen Turner, which was a weird freaking movie. I just saw it recently, and it was nuts, but I loved it. He took a lot of Ken Russell in Psycho 3, lighting-wise, you know, the way things were moving forward. Psycho 3 has a very sleazy undercurrent, and I think that's something that people catch on to, but they don't really know what is bothering them, if that makes any sense. So people who do that tend to lash out more about a film. It's the same thing with Psycho 4. People were saying, oh, geez, you know, even Leonard Bolton wrote Good Night, Norman in one of his reviews, and it's like Psycho 4 was extremely good, actually. But people get this stigma in their mind about it because, oh, well, 3 was a gore fest. But like you said, there really wasn't that much more gore than in the second one. But I think it's the overall tone of the film freaked a lot of people out, and people are so quick to jump. That's why I think Roger Ebert loved Psycho 3. He gave it a good review. He was
really?
actually shocked. Yeah, if you read Roger Ebert's review of Psycho 3, he liked it better than 2. He said Perkins' direction was fantastic. It was a good, you know, moving forward story. He would have changed this, and this, but otherwise it was really a good suspense thriller. And I agree, but I think the sleaziness of it and that little undercurrent and even the nudity that's thrown in 3 for no reason is one of those factors that make people cringe a little bit. And that's why people are so quick to jump on saying it's horrible. But I think Psycho 3 had some great moments in it.
I just think it's sad that Psycho movies are never viewed as like highly as Friday the 13th, Halloween, or Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Why do you think that is?
It's just it's the popularity of each of those franchises. Because I mean, I don't think the Friday the 13th movies are. I don't think they're viewed as better than better than the Psycho ones. It's like it's apples and oranges. They both do completely different types of things. The difference is that Friday the 13th instantly was putting out a movie every year for pretty much the entirety of the 80s.
Yeah.
And that kind of we all grew on those. So Jason was kind of always there. And, every couple of years, Jason X, Freddy versus Jason, Friday the 13th, the remake. Once Perkins died, that was kind of the last. I'm sure if Perkins had lived, they would have made a Psycho 5 and a Psycho 6. They definitely would have continued. But he died so shortly after the fourth one that it was kind of like, well, how can we possibly do another movie without him? He was kind of the glue of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's just once a franchise kind of falls out of the public's subconscious, it just kind of loses popularity because there's always new generations of fans kind of popping up. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm sure there's a ton of kids that when Friday the 13th, the remake came out, had probably never seen a lot of the originals, but they saw the remake, loved it, and then they went back and found all the other stuff. So, I mean, that's the thing. There's no new Psycho movie. It's like the remake killed the franchise as dead as possible.
Yeah.
And that was, almost 14, 15 years ago at this point. So, I mean, that's the exciting thing about at least this Hitchcock movie that's coming out is hopefully it'll kind of just bring Psycho back into the public eye.
Yeah.
And, hopefully people will be reinterested in it again.
Well, if Psycho were to be remade again, who would you, well, Mike, let's go with you. Who would you pick to play Norman Bates this time around if Psycho were to be remade?
Well, if I can't have Anthony Perkins, which sadly, obviously, we can't, I would definitely go with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think he could do it justice.
What about you, Rob? Have you ever given this thought?
Andrew Garfield, through and through. But, he's doing Spider-Man now, so I don't think he's ever going to come back to doing any other type of movie. But that was one of those things I talked to him about. It was like, man, if they ever redid Psycho or anything like that, or even a buy-up on Perkins, you are the guy to do it because you definitely look just like him and could pull it off. That said, I'm not familiar at all with the guy that they got playing Anthony Perkins in the Hitchcock movie,
right.
An actor named James Darcy. He looks good. I mean, he looks kind of like Perkins, but I have no idea what kind of actor he is. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Now I want to ask you. You released the Psycho Legacy, which is, like I said, a documentary on all 4 Psycho movies. You released this on October 19th, 2010. How did it go? What's the reception like?
I mean, from what I understand, it did really well for Shout Factory. And even now, 2 years later, we're still trying to get it out into other parts of the world. It came out, unbeknownst to me, it came out in Germany on Blu-ray, which is weird because we shot it before the Blu-ray format even existed, so it's not in HD, it's in standard def. So I don't know how they managed to release an HD version of it when it doesn't exist. And we're trying to get it hopefully on TV somewhere by October of this year, like for this Halloween. And I'm sure, again, the new movie, which I think is just called Hitchcock now, will hopefully draw a lot of attention to it and kind of keep bringing fans back to that original franchise. I mean, as far as my part in it, like, mission accomplished. I did what I wanted to do, which was just remember and honor those movies and turn people back onto them. I still get people all the time like, oh, there's a Psycho 2 and 3, I didn't even know. And then I force my movie on them, and then they pick it up and they go and buy it. Ironically enough, earlier today, my buddy A.J. Bowen, who's a fine actor in several movies the last 2 years, he texted me this morning saying, hey man, was just taking a break, watched Psycho Legacy, and I ran to Amoeba to buy Psycho 2, 3, and 4.
Awesome.
So it's nice to know that people, even friends of mine, like, still see my doc and are like, you know what, I should own those movies.
Well,
and
Rob,
pick it up.
I've seen them before. I've seen all the movies before, but honestly, until I saw your documentary, that really got me excited again to watch them again. And I loved them, and it made me take another closer look at them. And, you know, that all goes to you, sir. So, bravo.
That's all. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Again, mission accomplished. And I don't know if you guys knew about it, and I don't think it's a secret, so whatever, I'll tell you. But I've been working on the book version of it for a little while now, which is probably going to take me quite a while. But there will be a book version of Psycho Legacy at some point in the not-too-distant future.
Good.
I'll buy it.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
I'll buy it. I'll support all this. So what are you working on in the future besides this book? What do you have planned? I know you did the Evil Dead 2 Blu-ray. You did a couple specials for that. Are you doing anything like that in the future?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch, which of course I'm not allowed to say yet. But I'm working on a bunch of stuff with Michael Felsher, who is the producer of a lot of those special features like Evil Dead 2 and Intruder. And he just got a slew of projects for the rest of the year that we're working on. And we've already started doing some of the interviews for one of them, which I think you guys are going to really, really flip about. And I already moderated one of the commentaries. The commentary was a dream come true. And again, I can't say what it is, but the second you hear it, you'll be like, oh, that's pretty cool. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can expect from Red Shirt Pictures on some classic horror titles that are going to be re-debuting on DVD and Blu-ray. And besides that, I mean, the Psycho Legacy book is taking up a lot of my time. It's going to be different than what the documentary was because I want them both to complement each other. And I don't want anybody to feel like they're buying the same thing twice because it's totally not going to be that. But it's going to be along the lines of the Crystal Lake Memories book, which is like this nice hardcover like coffee table book that featured all the interviews completely unedited and uncut. And the nice thing about the Psycho Legacy book is I've been able to go back and get newer interviews with people that weren't in the movie because, obviously with the movie I had to physically meet them to shoot the interview, but if you're doing a book, you could just get them on the phone for a few minutes. So I've already spoken to Dennis Franz from Psycho 2, and I got a new interview with him about Psycho 2 exclusively for the book. And, so I mean, the book is the main thing, and, we'll see. We'll see what else is in store. There's always some fun stuff with Drew Daywalt, but I don't know exactly what we're doing next yet. He's got his own stuff going on.
Great. Well, thanks so much, man, for coming on the show and helping us with this Psycho 1960 versus Psycho 1998 battle.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Be sure to pick up Rob Galluzzo's The Psycho Legacy, available at Amazon.com. A complete documentary of all 4 Psycho movies. This is Alex. For Mike and Dan, we hope you enjoyed the Psycho 1960 versus Psycho 1998 battle. We'll see you next week in Cabin 1.
So I don't have the guts, huh?